Hello, I'm Locke Meredith. I'd like to invite you to join me on the next Legal Lines, where my guest is the Superintendent of Louisiana State Police, Colonel Mike Edmonson, Mr. Ronnie Jones, a former trooper who is the Chairman of the Gaming Board of Louisiana. Colonel Edmonson is going to talk to us about how the state police are fighting crime and joining forces with local sheriffs and police chiefs. He's also going to talk to us about Carpe Diem, and Mr. Ronnie Jones will talk about regulating gaming casinos. So join us on the next Legal Lines. Hi, I'm Locke Meredith, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of myself, Sean Fagan, Corey Ogeron, and our entire staff for being our Legal Lines audience for almost 15 years. Our audience now is over 500,000 households. I'd also like to thank Cox Channel 4 and my friend Eric Coleman for being with me from the beginning. From all of us, thank you. Welcome to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. I'm very pleased to have back on the show the Superintendent of the Louisiana State Police, Colonel Mike Edmonson. Mike, great to have you back.
Thank you, glad to be here.
Really appreciate you coming back. Also have the Chairman of the Louisiana Gaming Board, Mr. Ronnie Jones. Ronnie, nice to meet you. Appreciate you coming in.
Absolutely.
Mike, let's talk about the Louisiana State Police. We met last year, and at that point, I think you had been in your position for about 4 or 5 years as the superintendent. I think, what, 25th superintendent in the history of the state police?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Very, very wonderful honor, I know, and I know you treat it that way. You indicated that the governor had called you in and basically said, what do you need? And y'all decided to, I guess, coordinate efforts with all local law enforcement and the state police. Tell the folks where we stand today.
Well, I think the key part of that conversation was the word partnerships. You know, you had the state police over here doing their deal. You had the city police and the chiefs over here doing theirs. Then the sheriff's office over here. We were all doing our positions, doing our jobs. We weren't coordinating together, and that's unfortunate. And so I took the time to go sit down in every sheriff's office, 64 parishes, then 65, because New Orleans had 2 sheriffs then. And then to go to the 330 police chiefs.
That blows my mind.
Over 600 fire chiefs. But just sit down with them and say, listen, I'm no better than you. You know, I'm Mike Edmonson. I've been with state police 34 years, 6 years now as superintendent. What can I do to make our job better? How can I stand next to you, behind you? It doesn't matter to me, but let's do whatever we can do to pool our resources, to share. We weren't even sharing databases.
That was a wonderful revelation when you indicated that is now taking place.
Absolutely, and it was a 15-minute meeting that took 5 minutes of that 15 minutes to say, you know, it's almost stupid. Share your resources, because at 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that lone police officer, they need that information. They need to be able to make a decision that time, and they shouldn't have to go to 4 or 5 different databases to do that. That's taken care of. Same thing with our human trafficking, our child predators that we're heavily involved in, and we can go over some of the stats on that in just a minute, but we're moving forward in all those areas, and we're moving forward as one police agency.
It's fascinating to
see. It is, because the public could care less the color of our uniform or the shape of our badge. They just want to know when you call a policeman, they want to be there. So I support our sheriffs, I support our chiefs, and a lot of the things you see us doing together as task force, you see a combination of all these different agencies. 75% of the agencies in Louisiana have less than 15 men on the job or women.
Amazing.
So if
I
can
they need
share
help.
Detectives, narcotics, intelligence information, expertise in traffic, and murder investigations, and
the crime lab,
the crime lab, the fusion center, all those different disciplines that state police has. Why not share them? So I tell them, what I have is yours. My tools in my toolbox is yours.
And it's made a difference. I know in Baton Rouge with Hiller Moore and the chief and the sheriff, that in the use of some grants from the federal government and y'all's help, crime's dropped down 20%. It's still high, and I know everybody's focused on that, but that's a wonderful thing. Fascinating. I remember you basically summarizing President Reagan's kind of quip that it's amazing what you can get done when nobody really cares who gets the credit. And it seems like that's what's happening.
Absolutely. If you see the success stories you had here in the Baton Rouge area, you see Hiller Moore, you see Surf Gotro, you see myself. No one's sitting there taking control of the situation. We're all saying, look, it's all of us working together. It's the manpower, the individuals out there every day they're on the streets. That's who's making a difference. That's who's resonating with the public. Because here's the deal, the basic human need is to feel safe.
That's right.
And that's what we have to sit there and think about. Not be so reactionary in our policing, but being proactive. If we know where the crashes are occurring, let's put people there. If we know where the home invasions, if we know where the burglaries, God forbid, the murders, if we know where things are taking place and there's an indication that this exists in these areas, let's talk to the people that live there. Let's talk to the business people and let's work with them.
And I know LSU's got, Professor Shahade's got a program that he's inputting data from everybody, and he's literally able to target pretty much what street, what time, and what people are going to be there and what crimes they might be doing. So this is a fascinating age.
And why not be prepared for that?
That's right.
Utilize your whole technology issues, the databases, the information that you can pull. I mean, my cell phone right here, my iPhone, has more capabilities than President Clinton had when he was president.
That's amazing.
So I have it on my hip, more things that are available to me. So that's what, and that's being reinvented almost daily now as different apps are coming up that we're utilizing and using in law enforcement perspective. But you know, it's where it simply makes a difference. And
Mike, you were talking, you mentioned traffic.
Yes.
And I know that recently I read that the state police is implementing a new management of traffic problems, including car wrecks, et cetera. Explain to the folks what's going on.
It's called traffic incident management. It's just simple. For every 1 minute that it takes for a police officer to get to the scene of a crash, you can look at a backup of 4 to 7 minutes. So you can see the problems you have. So we need to get someone up there as quickly as possible, but at the same time, as that call comes in, if you need a fire truck, let's get one up there. If there's a fire, if there's hazardous material, if you need an ambulance, let's get one up there. If you just need a tow truck or somebody to jump you off, let's get that up there.
No reason to send everybody else, huh?
Yeah, and then we can clear it up much quickly. And that's what the whole traffic incident management, you know, we're seeing more and more police officers around the country being hurt, injured, and even killed in these situations where you're dealing with a vehicle that's broke down or a car crash where people just run through it, construction areas. So that's something that is important to us, and it's a program through the federal government that we said, let's take advantage of in Louisiana. And again, a combination of all, the chiefs, the sheriffs, and us, that simply makes a difference.
It's saving lives, most importantly, that of law enforcement personnel and folks who are sitting in their cars stuck behind traffic.
Absolutely.
But also saving money.
Absolutely.
Tell the folks a little bit, because you know, you'd mentioned last time we did a show, you wear a lot of hats. The Louisiana State Police is a huge operation. I think you've indicated, what, 3,000 employees?
Just over 2,700 employees, about a $450 million budget. If you look at the hats I wear, I'm over the state fire marshal. I get to appoint him. Butch Brown is doing an outstanding job for me there. Steve Campbell, a former state trooper, went up and actually was instrumental in writing the commercial driver's license in Washington when he left being a trooper here, and American Trucking Association. So we've got motor vehicle that's 600 employees. They bring in over almost $1 billion a year in revenue. You've got the Highway Safety Commission. I'm actually over 9 boards and commissions. I wear the uniform as a state trooper and the hat, but I'm also the Deputy Secretary of the Department of Public Safety and Corrections.
Sit in the governor's cabinet.
I do. I'm there for all the meetings that we have with the governor. I'm there for all your critical emergencies during storms and incidents that we've had. We've had quite a few of those in Louisiana. I surround myself with some incredibly competent individuals, and I simply let them do their job, and I support them. And we visit all the time. And I think that's where it makes a difference. I can't govern sitting behind a desk. So I get out into the field.
You're a working CEO, huh?
Not a micromanager, but I certainly want to know what's going on. I certainly want to have because the governor made it really clear one time. He was telling me, you're doing a good job. And I kept saying, yeah, my people are, they're doing this. And he said, you're doing a good job. And I would, you know, put it on my people. And he goes, grabs my arm. And he said, wait a minute, let me just tell you something. You're doing a good job, because if you weren't, we'd be having this conversation about that. So he made it clear from the beginning that he gave me full latitude to run my agency, but he's going to hold me accountable, and his expectations are high, and I know what they are.
All right, we'll continue this on the next segment. This is Locke Meredith with Legal Lines, and my guests are the Superintendent of State Police, Colonel Mike Edmonson, and the Chairman of the Gaming Board, Mr. Ronnie Jones. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Locke Meredith, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of myself, Sean Fagan, Corey Ogeron, and our entire staff for being our Legal Lines audience for almost 15 years. Our audience now is over 500,000 households. I'd also like to thank Cox Channel 4 and my friend Eric Coleman for being with me from the beginning. From all of us, thank you. Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith, and again, very pleased to have back on the show the Superintendent of the Louisiana State Police, Colonel Mike Edmonson, and also the Chairman of the Gaming Board, Mr. Ronnie Jones. Let's dive right back in, Mike, before we talk to Ronnie. You know, one of the other focuses that you indicated last year that you really wanted to use resources was to create a relationship of trust with the community. And you really pound on the fact that, you know, the #1 goal of the state police is to provide a safe world for Louisiana residents to live in, and that's probably the #1 goal they'd like to be accomplished. How are we doing in that regard?
Well, you know, when I traveled around the state right off the bat and continue to travel, and I talk to people, I mean, that's what resonates with them. They want to feel safe.
That's right.
When they cut their lights off and they go to bed at night, when they get up in the morning, they just want to feel safe. And, you know, when you sit there and talk to them and say, I can either, as a police officer, my agency or the other agencies can either be a part of or apart from the community. And we choose to be a part of. We're mentoring kids. I mean, there's not a day during the school year that we don't have a trooper somewhere in the state that's in a classroom. Slide into a kindergarten class, a first, second, third grade class, and to talk to them. Read a story, tell them what's on uniform, talk to them about the different things that they're dealing with at that time.
I love what you said too last year, and it creates, it reduces the chance of fear if they do need to call a policeman.
Absolutely, because we don't want them to fear. So
right.
Nothing irritates me more than to hear a parent say, there's the policeman, if you're not good, he's going to come get you. Well, that's not true. I'm not going to go after some little child or anything like that, and they shouldn't understand that. I usually show them with your handcuffs, they don't fit on a little child's hand. they're not for that, and I'll show them that this is not. But to make them understand that guns are not toys, and knives
right.
are not toys, and understand, you know, the simple things of not talking to strangers.
Well, the motto of the state police, Louisiana State Police, is what? Courtesy,
loyalty, and service.
Pretty much says it all.
Yes. Well,
let's shift gears a little bit. Ronnie, you're the chairman of the Gaming Board, and I found it fascinating how the two departments, in my mind, work. First of all, explain to folks what the Gaming Board is as the chairman.
The Louisiana Gaming Control Board was created in 1996, and I think the original chaos that was created in the regulatory environment when the legislation authorized.
That was 91, right?
91, yeah. And state police was involved. I was in state police at the time, spent 27 years there the first time around. And it really was a chaotic environment for us.
Well, and Louisiana doesn't have the greatest history with gambling, so it was a scary thing for us.
And we love to gamble in this state. I mean,
right.
Colonel Grevenberg used to tell me that the 1950s, Louisiana had more slot machines than Las Vegas had, and it wasn't even legal here.
Good gosh.
So we've had a fascination and a love of gambling, and Governor Romer capitalized on that, saw that as a means to raise revenue for the state, create some economic development, and he helped promote the two laws that authorized video poker and riverboats. Wasn't the best structure originally, although state police was involved at that point.
I remember you telling me it was total chaos, you felt like.
It was absolute chaos. We literally took fine young men and women off the road out of road supervisor positions and said, write the rules for riverboat gaming. And there's no book on that. They went to Illinois, they went to New Jersey, they went to Nevada, and we gave them a monumental task. And of course there was tremendous push from the industry to get the boats operating, up and running. The people who wanted to go to the boats wanted it done quickly. Governor Edwards wanted it done quickly.
No surprise there.
It was tough. We managed to make everybody mad at some point. We got it going. I don't think it was the best start. But I know that it was proper from the standpoint of establishing integrity and confidence in the industry.
Well, and tell the folks that, as I understand it, that is the mission of your board. I mean, it's what Mike was talking about: trust, having the community trust this particular
confidence and integrity in gaming is like faith in religion. I mean, it will collapse without that. I'm convinced. I was at the legislature when the laws were passed. I was there for all the fighting down in the Capitol. Louisiana State Police was offered up as it's going to work in Louisiana because we're going to put this agency in charge of it and they're above reproach. And the people agreed with that. They said that's a good way to do it.
This agency being the Louisiana State Police, which has proven to be true.
And that has been true, and I'm very proud of that. But in 1996, Governor Foster supported a bill that created an independent body, a board comprised of 9 people with 1 chairman. The chairman is full-time. The others come from different disciplines. You have to have an attorney. You have to have one with an accounting business background or urban planning, one from law enforcement. You have a variety of disciplines who sit
staggered terms of 6 years.
Staggered terms, so that no one governor can stack the board.
Interesting.
And I have to tell you, I was the new guy coming on board in August, and I relied a great deal on the members who've been there for 6, 8, 9 years. Some have been reappointed. And we're in a great place in terms of regulatory structure today. The state police, we're an independent body, but the state police sort of serves as our foot soldiers. They're the guys who do the inspections. They're the ones who
they keep them honest.
Actually, they do the hard work. They bring any violations to our attention. They do the suitability backgrounds. They do the inspections. The Attorney General's office acts as our legal counsel. And those 2 groups of people really are the ones who bring the cases, the licensees, before the board. We make determinations with regard to suitability, licensing, withdrawing licensing, revoking licenses. We also serve in a judicial capacity. When people are cited, they can appeal to a through an administrative law judge, a hearing officer. If they don't like that decision, they can appeal to the board.
But it's pulled out of the typical court system that we have.
Absolutely. And if they don't like our decision, I mean, we're not the Supreme Court of Gaming. They can still take it into the trial court system in Louisiana. But in terms of gaming structure, I've looked around the other states, and I'm very satisfied that we've got a good regulatory environment in Louisiana. And I get that from the general managers of riverboats that I've met throughout the state.
So they're cooperating?
Absolutely. And they all understand that my desire to engage them and talk about issues confronting the industry should not be mistaken for any weakness on my part when it comes to regulating them. They know where I stand. They know what the rules are. They're going to try and follow them. They know if they don't follow them, there are consequences.
Tell the folks what we have. As I understand, we got 1 land-based casino, a bunch of boats in different spots, some slot machines. Tell folks what we got.
Unlike Mississippi, which sort of let the market determine the growth of the industry, in Louisiana, we limited the number of riverboat licenses to 15.
Can that be changed?
Absolutely. The legislature can change that. But right now, we've limited that to 15 licenses. We have 14 operating boats. They're in the Bossier-Shreveport area, the New Orleans area, the Baton Rouge area, Lake Charles area, and 1 south of Lafayette. There's 1 boat that's licensed but not in operation yet, the Golden Nugget. Colonel Edmonson and I visited that last week. That should be in operation by the end of the year.
And that's in Lake Charles, too?
That's in Lake Charles. There'll be 3 properties in Lake Charles. So we have 15 licensed riverboats. We have,
and they don't have to really float around like they used to in the very beginning. They're pretty much stationary, as I understand.
I wish we hadn't done that, but that's what we've got to deal with, and we'll just have to work through that. So we've got the riverboats, we've got video poker devices in about half the parishes in Louisiana, about 14,000 video poker devices in 2,000 establishments.
Now, are those also in the boats? They
do have video poker devices as part of, they're like slot machines. You have a number of electronic devices that are in riverboats. And of course, we also have jurisdiction over the land-based casino
in New Orleans,
at the foot of Canal Street. We also have slots at 4 racetracks in the state. So that's essentially my jurisdiction.
All right, well, let's continue this on the next segment. We'll be right back. This is Locke Meredith with Legal Lines, the Superintendent of Louisiana State Police, and the Chairman of the Board of Gaming, Mr. Ronnie Jones. Hi, I'm Locke Meredith, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of myself, Sean Fagan, Corey Ogeron, and our entire staff for being our Legal Lines audience for almost 15 years. Our audience now is over 500,000 households. I'd also like to thank Cox Channel 4 and my friend Eric Coleman for being with me from the beginning. From all of us, thank you. Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. We have a very interesting show today. We're fortunate again to have the Superintendent of Louisiana State Police, Colonel Mike Edmonson, and also the Chairman of the Board of Gaming, Mr. Ronnie Jones. Ronnie, let's keep going with what we're talking about, which is gaming in Louisiana.
And
Gambling in Louisiana.
Absolutely. The whole gaming environment is going to continue to evolve. I mean, you're going to have legislators who want to look at internet gaming. You're going to have them looking...
Because that's a big wave
That's
now, right?
a huge... I mean, people are gaming on the internet today here in Baton Rouge, but they're doing it with offshore entities that may or may not pay off if they happen to win.
Interesting. And we're not getting any taxes.
And we're not getting any taxes, and sometimes they're not getting their winnings. So there's still a lot of things out there the legislature will be dealing with in the next 10 years or so. So it's going to change. What's important for us right now to understand is gambling is here, whether you call it gambling or gaming. It's an industry. It's about economic development. People in this state spend about $3 billion a year.
That's amazing. Every time I hear you say that, I just...
The entity, those are just entities that I regulate. That doesn't count pari-mutuel wagering. That doesn't count the Indian casinos. Doesn't count charitable gaming.
Stuff going on.
Or the state lottery. Those are separate. Just $3 billion for what my board has control over.
Amazing.
Now, of that, about $675 million in fees goes to the state of Louisiana to do things like support public safety, education, healthcare. It's spread throughout the government. So it's here. Let's regulate it. Let's create the environment where it can be controlled, maintain the integrity, and we'll see what the legislature goes with.
Well, and what I love is what we discussed earlier before the show started, and that is the state police have done exactly what they said they were going to do, and there hasn't been a single trooper tainted in any way with any kind of wrongdoing.
And we want to keep it that way.
That's an excellent record.
It is. Pretty proud of it.
Let's shift gears, because I know, last year we talked about the violent crime unit kind of projects, but this year you've done something different called Carpe Diem. Tell the folks what that is.
Well, we did. We wanted to take all the disciplines that's available to us within state police and public safety. The Fusion Center, which is the intelligence gathering arm. We pay attention to what's going on not only around the country but around the world, and what effect that has in Louisiana. You'd be very, very surprised to know that when you talk about the Middle East, the different areas and countries over there,
you've been to Israel.
People that live and work and thrive in Louisiana. There's segments of the population, and so we check to make sure there's any effect of that. The Boston bombing at the marathon. We were immediately up and running, talking real time with that Fusion Center to see, is there any concern in Louisiana? So when things happen, we're involved in that. We also send that information out to our agencies around the state, and also in major crimes. If there's a major crime in New Orleans, is there any similarity to something that might have happened in Shreveport or Baton Rouge or Lake Charles or Monroe? So we pull those resources together and give that timeline to that agency that's working in. Carpe Diem was something that was a 7-week statewide program that looked at all the initiatives, and we wanted to sit there and really concentrate on illegal drugs, illegal weapons, fugitives, and sex crimes. We asked all our sheriffs and our chiefs, give us your fugitives, your most heavily wanted fugitives, your felonies.
Wow. And
let us start looking for them. Let's go knock on the door where we think they might live. And what was interesting is that in a lot of instances that just hadn't been done. We're so busy responding to crime that to sit there and to be proactive, it just made it difficult.
You have to actually make an appointment.
Well, everyone has got a lot to do. So what happened on that, we made over 1,000 criminal arrests. Of those 1,000, almost 650 plus were felonies. Over 100 weapons taken off the street. $6.5 million worth of drugs were stopped. We had 3 shipments of 1 pound each of pure heroin that were stopped between Lake Charles and Lafayette, in the Lafayette area, and the Lafayette between Baton Rouge. And we were able to continue those drugs into an area
that saved lives.
It was coming here in Baton Rouge. It was another one was going to New Orleans, and the other one up the East Coast. We were able to make that controlled delivery and make arrests on it. Heroin's huge now. It's one thing that really concerns us in law enforcement because it's back. And what we're seeing is 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, heroin was cut 6 or 7 different ways. Now it's pure. These kids are ingesting that, and they're dying.
They're dying.
And just talk to the coroner here. His latest report showed the indication that heroin deaths.
And the synthetic marijuana stuff is killing the brains of kids.
Absolutely. And I mean, I just think when you look at those disciplines, you put them together, it was successful. And utilized the sheriffs and chiefs, all of us working together. We did it in the New Orleans area. We kind of finished up down there. We made some tremendous arrests because here's the deal. We looked beyond that traffic stop. Was there something out of the ordinary that made that police officer say, there's something else to this? Let me ask some more questions. and we found drugs in the car, we found illegal weapons, we found fugitives warrants, and then we took that traffic stop, and we were able to make some, along with the New Orleans Police Department, some different crime issues in those areas that it resonated and made a difference. And, I think that's where it becomes successful.
Another issue that we've talked about, and I know actually it came up in the context of Carpe Diem, Baton Rouge and New Orleans, unfortunately, are in the top 10 cities that are involved in this human trafficking. And as I understand it, the Carpe Diem got some folks in Lafayette.
Well, I think if you look, I'll just read it to you. 48 arrests for various sex crimes, 27 for prostitution, human trafficking, 5 internet solicitations for juveniles, 9 child pornography, and 3 juveniles. We just did one for just prior to the NBA All-Star game. Those groups, whether it's the Super Bowl, NBA, they bring this element to whatever area they're in. We made 30 arrests, and we were able to actually rescue 1 juvenile. 3 juveniles were arrested in the Carpe Diem. We had an incident in Lafayette where a young girl was actually luring kids into it and say, I'm gonna paint your nails, I'm gonna buy you a purse, I'm gonna buy you dresses, I'm gonna take care of you. Now I need you to do something for me on the side that you may not like, but I'm gonna take you to parties. And then when they would not want to do it, well, they would get beat. Things would happen to them, and they would say, oh my God, look what I can have if I just listen. But there was one point in particular, one of the ladies that they could see something wasn't wrong. They got her off to the side, and she'd been involved in this over 20 years, and she'd been trying to get out, but she'd been moved around the country. A lot of these juveniles, when they're brought into it in the Baton Rouge area specifically, they'll be sent up to Jackson, Mississippi, over to Tampa, Florida, over to Miami, up to Las Vegas, St. Louis, Dallas, Houston, and they'll move them around. The ones we found in both these details, several out of the California area. So I think by getting involved in that, and it's where it makes a difference. When we're talking about juveniles.
Well, tell the folks, Mike, because you mentioned this last time, is people can go to the website and they can find out where you've got these perverts and these sex offenders if they're close to them. Tell them how they do that.
Well, they can go to the state police website, lsp.org, and you can click on, and that's one of those databases that it's all together now. You don't have to go to 4 or 5 different places. You go to one, it'll tell you where your sex offenders live. It'll tell you in that community where you can talk to your kids, you can talk to your neighbors, and you can identify these individuals that do that.
And they can tell you guys by going to the website or calling y'all, hey, something's going on here, help us.
Absolutely. And let me just put this out there because it's important. One of the most abused portions of the internet that people are looking for is a 4-year-old little girl that's being raped. And as horrible as that sounds, it's happening. We've got to be able to protect these children. We've got to be able to have an enforcement effort out there that's aiming at that, because these people that are going on the internet and they're looking at things, at some point that's not going to be enough. Yeah. So they're going to touch somebody.
Well, and I know you.
Somebody.
I've gotten great praise about the way you've participated with Trafficking Hope and Lee and Laura Domain, and we're going to do a show with them shortly. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mike Edmonson with the Louisiana State Police, Superintendent, Ronnie Jones, Chairman of the Gaming Board. Thanks for being with us today.